As I drove home from my friend's place late at night, I couldn't help but notice the time slipping away from me. Though I couldn't pinpoint the exact hour, I estimated it to be around 2 or 3 in the morning. Luckily, my house was only about a 20-minute drive away, which wasn't too bad, considering the scattered layout of the houses in the area. However, the heavy rain and the absence of street lights added an extra challenge to my journey. With visibility reduced, I had to navigate the roads with extra caution, slowing down my pace to ensure safety. Despite the inconvenience, I pressed on, determined to reach home safely. About 5 minutes into my drive, I reached a traffic light and stopped as it was red. Across the intersection, I noticed a blue car. Its headlights were on and it was positioned awkwardly, half into the intersection, even though it had a green light. I wasn't sure if the driver was experiencing car trouble or had perhaps fallen asleep. As soon as the light turned green for me, I proceeded cautiously, slowly steering my car around the stalled vehicle. Curious, I tried to sneak a peek inside the blue car as I passed by, hoping to understand the situation better. However, the heavy rain made it difficult to see through my windows, obscuring most of my view. Just moments after I passed the blue car and resumed driving, I noticed in my rearview mirror that it had started moving and was now following me. It was clear then that the car hadn't been broken down as I initially thought. Although I'm not typically someone who gets paranoid easily, the way the car suddenly began tailing me made the whole situation feel orchestrated and unsettling. Just a minute later, as I continued down the road, the headlights of the car behind me began to intensify in my mirrors, indicating that it was drawing much closer, nearly a few feet away from my rear bumper. In such rainy conditions, this proximity was extremely unsettling. While I tried to focus on the road ahead, a small warning light suddenly lit up on my dashboard. It was an alert indicating that one of my tires was low on air. This was a typical notification, but its timing felt particularly strange given the current circumstances. Glancing back into my mirrors, I could barely make out the shape of the car behind me. Its headlights were so bright and so close that it became difficult to see anything else. I was only about 4 or 5 minutes from my house, approaching the entrance to my neighborhood, when a new warning light began to flicker on my dashboard. It indicated a flat tire. A sense of dread washed over me the moment I saw it. Piecing together the events of the past few minutes, I became nearly certain that the car following me had somehow caused this. The timing and the circumstances were just too coincidental. I continued driving for another minute, hoping to get closer to home. However, I could feel my car increasingly tilting to the left, and it seemed like I was driving almost directly on the rims. Realizing the danger, I had no choice but to pull over to the side of the road. The car behind me did exactly the same. As soon as I stopped, I should have immediately called for help, but I was too preoccupied with the actions of the person in the car behind me to even think of it. Besides, even if I had made that call, I doubt it would have changed the events that were about to unfold. Once I had parked, the situation escalated quickly. 3 doors from the following car swung open and 3 men emerged. I had only a few seconds to process what was happening, but I was completely unprepared and vulnerable. The men charged toward my car, 2 approaching from my side and 1 from the opposite side. One of the men came right up to my window, yelling for me to open the door while brandishing a gun. Caught in a daze from the rapid unfolding of events, I hesitantly reached toward the door. Just then, the man at the back door smashed something hard against my window, shattering the glass. He then reached inside, unlocked, and opened the back door. Amidst their loud shouting, at each other and at me, the man from the back leaned over, opened the other back door, and then stretched further to unlatch my door from the inside. Frozen in place, I could only sit with my hands raised to show I posed no threat, realizing there was no escape even if I had been armed. Once they opened my car door, the man with the gun forcefully pulled me out and threw me onto the ground. Lying there on the cold, wet pavement in the rain, my thoughts oddly fixated not on the gun pressed against my head, or the fact that I was being robbed and assaulted, but on how chilly and damp the ground felt. It seemed like my mind was trying to detach itself from the terrifying reality of the situation. I wasn't on the ground for long before the men called out to the one holding me down. He then struck me in the back of the head, causing my head to bounce off the pavement. I couldn't tell if he used the gun or just his fist. I was too numb to feel it clearly. Surprisingly, the blow didn't knock me unconscious. Shortly after, I heard the sound of their car doors slamming shut, and then they drove away. After the attackers left, I rolled over, still reeling from the shock, and struggled to get up. They had taken my phone, which left me with no choice but to drive my damaged car back home. When I arrived, I immediately called the police, though the drive had further damaged and dented my car's rims. Unfortunately, the police investigation didn't lead to much. It revealed that the suspects had deliberately placed small tire spikes on the road at the intersection where I initially encountered them. I was somewhat fortunate to have hit only one spike, which caused less damage than it could have. It seemed they had set up the trap, intending to ambush me as soon as I hit it, but ultimately, whether I hit more spikes or not, didn't change the outcome of their plan.